Nice. Leon.
Pick it right back up and get it in that goal hole.
I want to see a solo like come charging.
Yeah, it's just like a game. It's not really a game.
Splatoon is an extremely popular series. 2 of its 3 entries have sold over 12 million copies, and the only one that hasn't is because it was on the Wii U, where still a third of all owners of that console had Splatoon. I just want to get right off the bat that I like this series, and I think that it is pretty successful. However, if you pay attention to pretty much any mainstream information on the game, it still doesn't have a good reputation, and there is a very low transfer rate of common shooter players playing Splatoon. And I believe there are 5 main reasons for this that should be looked at to better capture a new audience for Splatoon 4. So without any further delay, I'm going to get into these issues and what I think can be done about them in the future. Let's get started. The first one is the advertising. Splatoon, unfortunately, started during the Wii U era of ads, and these had a ton of, quote, cringe and bad advertising for a bunch of different games. But Splatoon was by far impacted the most. A bad Smash Brothers ad isn't going to do a whole lot of damage to a game that's been around for like 20 years. But Splatoon started here, and so when its most infamous ad is this, it may or may not have drastically boosted the stereotype that this game is only for kids, to a point where even like 10 years later, we still have to have this conversation. This solo ad is not the only issue it has though. I've talked in the past that I believe a lot of Splatoon 3's advertising does a bad job of conveying the game to players who aren't familiar with the Splatoon series. The single player ad is a cool reference to the one they did in Splatoon 1, but it's also extremely difficult to follow and doesn't give a whole lot of investment for those who have no idea what's going on because they can't tell what's going on. This also isn't to say that Splatoon doesn't have good advertisements. There are 3 examples that I really like. I think the Nintendo Switch trailer, possibly the best ad Nintendo's ever made, has a really good section on Splatoon showing the more competitive and strategical side of it. I really like Splatoon 2's trailer that's centered around dualies and the new mechanics of chargers and rollers that accurately show off some cool moves with it, syncing the dualie rolls to the music.
Yo, 2 guns? You can roll now? What is that? Holy sh**. You can roll.
Though my personal favorite are ones that are more prominent in Japan, which is some Splatoon in real life. That just looks fun. I'm not saying that there can't be ads that appeal to hardcore Splatoon fans or younger audiences, but that we're missing some advertisement that could be targeted in other better areas. Still though, that's just one problem. Let's talk about another one, control schemes. Splatoon has 2 control schemes, sticks and gyro controls. Stick controls are not optimal for shooters in general, but they especially feel bad in Splatoon because this game does not have aim assist. Aim assist is a very common mechanic in most shooters where the game basically aims a little bit for you, and we've never had this. Sticks feels bad because you're only using sticks with no help, and sticks are not a good control scheme for aiming. The solution to this, and what Nintendo has consistently pushed, are the gyro or motion controls. And back in 2015 when Splatoon came out, motion controls had a very bad reputation. Thankfully, a lot of that has been recovered. There have been examples of motion controls being used in other games, like CSGO and Team Fortress 2, showing off that they are in fact a great control scheme. I don't want this video to be talking about why gyro controls are good, because there are already a lot of videos out there, and I'll have 3 in the description for you to check out if you want to be sold on it more. Gyro controls are a viable alternate. Pretty much every top player is a motion control user. Most Splatoon players end up using motion controls, and they're a great control scheme. However, I think for shooter players who are used to something like mouse and keyboard, this is the biggest barrier to entry, because it does have a learning period. For the first few hours, it does not feel good to play. You have to get used to it.
Bro, no f***ing way. How does anybody do this?
And if you're already unsure about trying out a game, this is a huge barrier of entry.
Motion controls.
This may be
Oh god,
the
that's it. Right there, you just killed any chance of any casual player ever playing this game. Absolutely not.
To be clear, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the motion controls. I'm saying that the issue is the motion controls are the only good option. This is the problem that at least has the most obvious solution though. The Switch 2 literally is going to have a Joy-Con mouse. I'd imagine that's going to be a much easier control scheme that will will also not invalidate gyro in any way. Sticks will definitely struggle to keep up if no form of aim assist is added in Splatoon 4, but to be honest, there's not a whole lot I can see being done about it. The next issue I want to talk about is probably the worst one on this list. I think that this one turns a lot of people away who manage to try the game out, and that's the online. Nintendo's online service is not good. And what's especially hurt the reputation is when Splatoon 3 launched, the online netcode was a little bit more buggy and bad than it is now. There have been patches reducing the delay between players with things like damage, as well as fixing certain bugs that cause disconnections. This means that Splatoon 3's launch, the time where the most amount of new people probably tried out Splatoon,
So after battles, they're like, huh, yeah, that was a lot.
the online felt awful.
Activate!
Obviously, Nintendo Switch Online doesn't have a good reputation regardless, and Splatoon is far from the worst game with online service problems, but it's also leagues behind other shooters. Hopefully, with the Switch 2, this will be something that is a lot better in the future, but there's a realm of uncertainty there. Obviously, the online experience isn't going to be anything comparable to a lot of standard PC shooters, or even other console shooters. Not even close. That brings me to another point, and the one I'm most hopeful about, which is the hardware. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch 1 is a bit of an underpowered console, and the Wii U is even worse. Splatoon has been locked to 60 FPS, having occasional frame drop issues, and an incredibly low tick rate with only 16 Hz. It also has input delay problems. Nothing horrible by any means, like on the realm of Smash Ultimate Online or anything, but you do have about 6 frames of motion input delay, and wiring it to the Switch isn't really a way to fix it. However, the issue with these is mostly because of the base Switch 1. Turns out, on the Wii U, the console prior in Splatoon 1, the tick rate was 25 Hz and the input delay was cut in half. That's right, Splatoon 1, the first game in the series, has by far the best feeling controls.
Oh, it feels so good. There's no lag. It's crazy.
This can result in an experience where the control of the game is just a little bit worse than what most players are going to be used to, and I do think someone familiar with other shooters will realize that. However, this is the issue most likely to be fixed with the Switch 2. Being able to wire directly into the console and a much more powerful console will more than likely result in the best hardware and input delay experience in the series, so I'm happy to say this is something that should get better. But finally, there's one more issue. Let's say you bypass everything I talked about so far. You're going in being okay with the online, willing to learn a new control scheme, the advertisement didn't turn you away, and you don't mind the weaker hardware. What happens when you actually get into the game? For what I want to talk about, I'm going to compare two experiences from Critical. He tried out Splatoon 3 for the first time during the test fire. This was obviously not the full game, but you got to play Turf War for a unique Splatfest and try out a few different weapons. Specifically, there were 27 weapons available, with every single one of the 11 varied weapon classes in the game being available. And from the stream, you can see that he tried out pretty much all of them. That's pretty interesting. Let's now compare that experience to the game's launch.
Oh, I can only use one weapon right now. Hype. Oh, so it's not like in the tech test, you don't have every weapon by default? Rough. Oh, you have to buy new weapons? No. That'll be alright. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to level up.
I don't think this went as well as the test fire did, and the main reason to me is you don't really have a whole lot of options. All those weapons that were cycled through to try out all the unique mechanics and ways of playing the game are locked and take a long time to unlock. And it's more than just weapons. You don't even get to try and buy and customize any gear until you're level 4. Worse than that, 4 of the 5 main modes in the game aren't unlockable until level 10, something that takes a few hours of experience to get. Compared to most other shooters, this level of restriction isn't there, and it's for a good reason. You want players to try out, experiment, and figure out what parts of the game they like, what weapons, what modes, what experiences they want to play. The user being able to customize that is very important to experiences like this, but this doesn't cater to how the game is set up. The user experience for Splatoon is extremely planned out and controlled ahead of time. You don't get that level of input, and I think that is a bad decision. If a player wants to only stick with the Splattershot Jr. or some basic shooter weapons and only play Turf War, they can just do that. No one's forcing them to go and try out all these other options, but they should be options. Once people get into the game, allow them to figure out what they enjoy about it. Because the longer it takes them to find something that might hook them into the game, the more of a chance that they don't make it that far. And I think that is a huge problem. I am desperately hoping that the next Splatoon game has much more options available within your first few minutes on the game. It would make a world of difference. Splatoon is one of my favorite franchises out there, and I love talking about it. And I want it to do better. I want most people to look at this game and see an innovative and unique experience you can't find elsewhere. But in order to get more people trying it out who would be able to push or talk about this game, it needs to be more accessible to new players. And this is what I think needs to change. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.